People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Have you ever felt that beneath your everyday self lies something deeper, parts of you that remain hidden in the shadows? You're about to discover why two revolutionary thinkers, Rudolf Steiner and Carl Jung, believe that meeting these hidden aspects isn't just helpful, but absolutely necessary for genuine spiritual growth. Would you believe it if I said the parts of yourself you've been avoiding are actually holding the keys to your most profound transformation? In this exploration, we're going to unpack how Steiner's guardian of the threshold and Jung's shadow concept offer us a complete map for inner work, one that honors both the spiritual and psychological dimensions of human experience. Let's start with Steiner's guardian of the threshold. This isn't just some abstract concept, it's a real encounter that happens as we grow spiritually and try to cross from ordinary awareness into higher consciousness. Steiner described the guardian as a figure that shows us everything we've spent our lives avoiding, our moral failings, our unresolved karma, our egotism. It's like looking in a mirror that reflects back not just your face, but everything you've tried to hide from yourself. The guardian appears in two forms. The lesser guardian represents our lower nature, all our unresolved issues, our undeveloped aspects, our ego-driven impulses. The greater guardian represents our higher potential. It appears only after we've faced and integrated our lower nature. Now, Jung approached this same territory through his concept of the shadow. The shadow contains everything we've repressed, denied, or disowned, the parts of our personality that don't fit our self-image, or that society deemed unacceptable. But here's the key insight. The shadow isn't just our dark side. It contains everything we've pushed into unconsciousness, including talents and positive traits that didn't fit our family or cultural expectations. Much of our vitality, creativity, and authentic power actually resides in the shadow. The problem isn't having a shadow, it's remaining unconscious of it. When we're unaware of our shadow, we project it onto others, seeing in them the very qualities we've disowned in ourselves. You might be wondering, how would I know if I'm encountering my guardian or shadow? Both Steiner and Jung's experiences share strikingly similar answers. You'll feel discomfort, even fear, as you face aspects of yourself you've long avoided. There's a moment of recognition. This is me, yet not me. A paradoxical feeling of both familiarity and alienation. You'll face a moral reckoning, confronting your failings and the consequences of your actions. And most importantly, these encounters offer profound transformation through integration rather than rejection. Let's talk about how this plays out in your everyday life. Have you ever snapped at someone you care about, then quickly justified your behavior instead of admitting you were wrong? Or felt a flash of jealousy when someone succeeded, then buried that feeling because it doesn't match how you see yourself? Or made a mistake that hurt someone, then changed the subject or blamed circumstances to avoid the full weight of what you did? These moments of regret, remorse, or shame are actually doorways to meeting your shadow or guardian. The immediate impulse is to run from these feelings, to distract, to rationalize, to blame. But this avoidance is the exact mechanism that keeps the shadow hidden and gives it power over us. There's a profound liberation in doing the opposite, in staying present with that discomfort, in admitting to yourself, yes, I was cruel there. I do feel envious. I acted from selfishness. When you allow yourself to fully face these truths without running away, something remarkable happens. Instead of the shame crushing you, you begin to feel a weight lifting. You're no longer expending energy maintaining an idealized self-image. You're becoming whole. This work happens in small moments throughout your day. When you catch yourself in a lie, when you notice your irritation rising, when you recognize your fear driving a decision, each time you pause and acknowledge what's really happening, instead of turning away, you're doing the work of integration. Many people also experience these encounters during meditation, in dreams, or in those liminal states between waking and sleeping, sleep paralysis, that state where you're conscious but unable to move, often with a sense of a threatening presence, has fascinating connections to both traditions. Steiner directly linked the guardian experience to what German folklore called the Alb, or Alp, a being believed to sit on a sleeper's chest, causing nightmares. Modern research shows sleep paralysis experiences are remarkably consistent across cultures, typically involving pressure on the chest, difficulty breathing, and the perception of a threatening presence. These experiences may represent a natural pathway through which humans across cultures encounter their own shadow material, or what Steiner would call the guardian. But you don't need dramatic experiences to begin this work. The next time you feel that instinctive resistance to acknowledging an uncomfortable truth about yourself, try pausing and turning toward it instead of away. That simple act of courage is the beginning of transformation. Both Steiner and Jung emphasize that the goal isn't to destroy or escape these challenging aspects of ourselves, but to transform and integrate them. For Steiner, this transformation involves developing the moral courage to face the guardian without flinching, working consciously on ethical practice, and cultivating inner strength through meditation and concentration. Jung's path includes recognizing the shadow's existence, noticing when we're seeing our own disowned qualities in others, working with dreams, and dialoguing with shadow figures through active imagination. Drawing from both traditions, here are practices that support integration. Keep a journal recording dreams, meditation experiences, and moments of projection. Express yourself artistically, create visual art, movement, or writing that gives form to inner experiences. Practice regular meditation that includes both concentration and open awareness. Honestly examine your actions and their consequences through moral review. Pay attention to physical sensations that arise during emotional triggers. Work with others who understand and support this process. Shadow work isn't just personal. It has profound social and cultural implications. Jung spoke of the collective shadow, those aspects of human nature that entire cultures disown and project onto others. This leads to dehumanizing enemy groups, cultural blind spots around privilege and oppression, and unprocessed collective trauma. Jung saw the rise of fascism in Europe as a manifestation of collective shadow projection on a massive scale. Steiner similarly recognized that humanity as a whole was crossing a threshold. He spoke of humanity collectively encountering the guardian, but unconsciously. He saw social fragmentation as reflecting the disintegration that happens during individual guardian encounters. He proposed a threefold social order as a way to consciously work with these forces. As we integrate our own shadow aspects, we project less onto others, reducing interpersonal and social conflict. We develop greater empathy. We interrupt cycles of trauma and dysfunction. We release energy for creating new cultural forms. We lead from integrity rather than unconscious power drives. In Steiner's anthroposophy, the concept of the guardian is closely related to another important concept, the doppelganger or double. While the guardian stands at the threshold between ordinary and spiritual consciousness, the doppelganger is a more constant companion, a being that accompanies us throughout our lives, influencing our thoughts, feelings, and actions. The doppelganger attaches itself to us at birth and remains with us until death. It bears our unresolved karma from previous incarnations. It's the source of instinctual drives, egotism, and materialistic tendencies. It's also a necessary counterforce that provides resistance for our development. Steiner described it as having both Ahrimanic aspects, pulling us toward materialism and mechanistic thinking, and Luciferic aspects, pulling us toward spiritual pride and emotional extremes. Jung's concept of the self goes beyond the shadow. While the shadow is one aspect of his model, the self represents the totality of the psyche. It includes both conscious and unconscious elements. It's the archetype of wholeness and the regulating center of the personality. It's the goal of the individuation process, the journey towards psychological completeness. Jung often represented the self as a circle, a mandala, or a quaternity, images of wholeness that appear in dreams and art. What happens after we begin integrating these challenging aspects? First, our relationship with ourselves transforms. We develop genuine acceptance of our whole being, including the aspects we once rejected. We trust our own inner guidance rather than seeking constant external validation. We gain greater freedom from compulsions and unconscious patterns. We express ourselves more fully and authentically. We access creative energies that were once bound in shadow material. Our relationships with others also transform. We project less onto others. We develop greater empathy and understanding. We connect from authenticity rather than persona. We establish healthier boundaries. We use conflict as an opportunity for growth, rather than something to avoid or fear. And our relationship with the larger world changes too. We engage with world issues without being overwhelmed. We see both challenges and possibilities. We contribute from a place of authentic values. We recognize our interconnection with all life. We begin creating new cultural forms, ones that support wholeness and integration. What awaits on the other side of this work? When you integrate shadow material, you reclaim the energy that was tied up in repression and projection. Many who've walked this path report experiencing a profound sense of coming home to themselves. They experience creative breakthroughs. They increase their artistic expression. They form more authentic connections with others, free from the distortions of projection. They gain greater access to intuition and inner guidance. They develop a natural compassion, a compassion that emerges from acknowledging their own humanity. They find the ability to be present with others' pain without becoming overwhelmed. They discover increased resilience in facing life's challenges. They cultivate a genuine sense of humor about their own contradictions. And perhaps most importantly, they find freedom from the exhausting work of maintaining a perfect self-image. As Jung put it, there is no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. This work isn't about achieving some perfect state. It's about becoming whole. The parts you've been rejecting actually contain the gifts and energies you need for your full expression in the world. This journey is not a destination. It's an ongoing process. Both Steiner and Jung emphasize that integration is a lifelong path. Each stage reveals new layers to be transformed. Development isn't linear. It moves in spirals. We revisit similar themes again and again, but each time at a deeper level. The work becomes more nuanced, but not necessarily easier, because the journey itself is the destination. We're living in times of profound polarization, where shadow projection runs rampant across political divides, between generations, among nations, in our social media bubbles. Our collective shadows are being projected on massive scales. Both Steiner and Jung witnessed the catastrophic consequences of unexamined collective shadows in their lifetimes. The rise of fascism, the outbreak of world wars. They understood that inner work isn't just personal therapy. It's essential to preventing collective disaster. When we do our inner work, we become less susceptible to manipulation through fear and hatred. We recognize when we're being invited to project our shadows onto others. We contribute to healing cultural and historical wounds instead of perpetuating them. We bring consciousness to institutions and systems that operate unconsciously. We create spaces where others feel safe to explore their own shadow material. Every person who commits to this journey not only heals their own life, but contributes to the healing of our shared world. Perhaps the most profound insight from both traditions is this: what appears as an obstacle, the guardian, the shadow, is actually your greatest teacher and ally. These challenging parts of ourselves are not enemies to be destroyed. They're neglected forces of our being, waiting to be seen, to be integrated, to be loved. Through the courage to face what we've avoided, we discover greater psychological wholeness and deeper spiritual insight. The guardian and the shadow stand at the threshold, not as fearsome gatekeepers, but as guides to our deeper nature. They show us exactly what we need to meet in order to become more fully ourselves. This exploration isn't just theory. It's a doorway to your own transformation. The ideas we've shared today only become alive through your engagement. So here's a practice for the week. Notice one moment, just one, when you feel the urge to avoid a truth about yourself. At the Lyra Wisdom Temple, we're dedicated to bringing these timeless teachings back into everyday life. Our journey doesn't end with this video. It's just beginning. If you found value in what we've shared today, please consider supporting our work. We offer wisdom-filled designs and teachings at thelira.com that help integrate these ancient principles into modern living. Together, we can rebuild what's been forgotten, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. The soul's journey isn't just personal, it's our collective heritage. Until next time, remember, you are not just a body having a temporary experience. You are an eternal consciousness on an infinite journey.